wait, you thought it was eczema and it wasn't, and it's a staph infection. What is that? How did you know? Who did you get tested with? Well, welcome to Biohacking with Brittany, where high performance health meets non-toxic living. I'm Brittany Ford, a holistic nutritionist, bringing you science-backed strategies in biohacking, longevity, and holistic wellness. Whether you're navigating fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, or simply striving for optimal well-being, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Happy Friday, or whatever day you are listening to this episode. Every Friday, I put out ones that are Ask Me Anything episodes or question and answer, whatever you want to call it. And today is exactly that. I typically get questions from my Instagram DMs, which have been blowing up lately. So if you have any health questions there, you want to talk about longevity, biohacking, women's health, fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, motherhood even, you can hit me up and I will 100% respond and help you as much as I can. Today's episode, we are diving into two different topics, and I'm really interested to see the feedback on both of these. I feel like there's a lot of questions around both of them, and I am just happy to help in the ways that I can. So we're going to be talking about the vitamin K shot that you have the option to give your baby at birth. And we're going to be talking about how I've healed my eczema. When I say eczema, was it actually eczema? We will find out. And so any resources mentioned in this episode, I will put in the show notes for you and on my website, BioHackingBrittany.com. And before we get started, a shout out to Wellness. I know you guys love their toothpaste. So do I. This is the very clean, non-toxic brand by Wellness Mama, Katie Wells, and she creates all types of self-care products, but most people know them by their toothpastes. So I use the strawberry one for my kid. I also use the cinnamon one for myself. There's no fluoride in it. There's no toxic chemicals in it. It is very, very clean. I love them. They're great. And they're actually effective in cleaning your teeth. And I will link that in the show notes for you so you can get a discount if you choose to purchase. They also have deodorant, hair care, skincare, a bunch of other things. And so, to be honest, there's not a lot of brands that I trust in that space. It's kind of getting very diluted with people trying to be clean when the products actually aren't. But with someone like Wellness Mama, I trust her and I trust her opinions and I trust her research. So I feel like I'm in good hands when I use her products. Anyway, I will link that for you. The brand is Wellness, and that's spelled Wellnesse at the end. Okay, and a shout out to BiOptimizers. I love their mushroom milk. I mean, that's not what it's called. It's called Mushroom Breakthrough, but I like to call it mushroom milk. I add some of this to my nut milk or coconut milk every afternoon. And it's got 4 different types of mushrooms in it. These are functional mushrooms that work to support the brain functioning. So things like cognition, memory, recall, not procrastinating as much, being more alert, everything like that. And so this is my little afternoon pick-me-up that I make for me and my husband every single day. Super clean, super safe. I love BiOptimizers. I love all of their products. And I definitely recommend this, especially if you are a mom or especially if you're a parent. Oh my goodness. And you have a lot on your plate. This is for you. No caffeine, no stimulation, but just like clear focus, which we love. I take it even though I'm breastfeeding. It's fine. So you do you. Make the best decision for yourself. BiOptimizers, use my discount code BioHackingBrittany. Get 10% off everything. All right, let's dive into this episode. Now, obviously a disclaimer with this one because of the nature of this episode. This is not medical advice. This is what I have found in the research. This is what other people are saying, and this is my experience. You decide what's best for you and your family, and you take it from there. It is your responsibility as the parent or parent to be, and so you can totally handle this. I know it's a lot of responsibility, but good for you for doing your research and due diligence before just quickly making a decision. Okay. Someone in my DMs, this guy, his wife is pregnant. I think she's due pretty soon. I think it is pretty soon. And I really like him. He honestly, like, we talk a lot about optimal pregnancy, optimal baby health. And so I was kind of telling him all of the birth decisions that I made. And he asked me what I did about the vitamin K shot. Now, if you're new here, I gave birth 8 months ago in July to my baby. And I'm in Canada for reference for this because that kind of might affect things as well. And I'm going to tell you what I did about the vitamin K shot. But before we do that, let's talk about what is the vitamin K shot and why are people doing it in the first place? So newborns enter the world with very low stores of vitamin K. Now, vitamin K plays a key role in blood clotting. This is because vitamin K doesn't cross the placenta easily during pregnancy. Breast milk only contains small amounts of vitamin K, apparently. And a baby's gut is sterile at birth, apparently, and hasn't yet developed the bacteria needed to produce its own vitamin K. And just a quick note on that, I actually heard very, very, very recently, that this whole idea of the baby's gut being sterile at birth is actually a myth. Now, I don't know enough about that, but I heard it on a podcast and I thought, wow, that's interesting. So I might actually dive deep into that because I don't know if that's true and I don't know if that would actually make sense. Anyway, so from what we know from the general public, we assume that the baby's gut is sterile at birth. Without sufficient vitamin K, babies are at risk for vitamin K deficiency bleeding, which is VKDB, which can be deadly if it occurs in the brain or other major organs. VKDB comes in 3 different forms. So there's the early onset, which happens in the first 24 hours of life, often linked to medications that interfere with vitamin K. There's the classical, which is days 2 to 7. This is the most common type and occurs before the baby's gut bacteria can produce vitamin K. And then there's late onset, which can occur up to 8 weeks or even later. And this is often more severe, occurring in exclusively breastfed babies who didn't get the shot, which is very, very interesting. A little bit of the history here. In 1961, the American Academy of Pediatrics began recommending vitamin K shots to all newborns. And since then, the VKDB, this deficiency bleeding, became extremely rare in countries that administer the shot. In contrast, countries that don't routinely give the shot see higher rates and higher cases of late onset VKDB, sometimes leading to fatal brain bleeds. So that's kind of like the history in the background. And now here's why some people and some parents question doing this. Despite its effectiveness, many parents are concerned about the massive dose first and foremost. The shot contains 20,000 times more vitamin K than a baby naturally has at birth. The synthetic formulation, it is not the same form of vitamin K as from a food source. And the potential toxicity. Vitamin K is a classic C drug, meaning its effects in pregnancy and infancy have not been fully studied. Are we surprised? No, we are not. And what is actually in the shot? And now this is where a lot of people get hung up. Because beyond vitamin K itself, some versions of the shot contain polysorbate 80, which is a stabilizer that may affect the blood-brain barrier, benzyl alcohol and phenol, which are preservatives that could be toxic to newborns in large doses. And lastly, propylene glycol, castor oil, and acetic acid used to improve absorption but raise concerns for some parents. These are preservatives. So there is a preservative-free vitamin K shot, but it will still include the polysorbate 80 and glacial acetic acid for stability. So you can't just get 100% vitamin K shot into your newborn. It has to have a stabilizer in there, even if you do choose to get the preservative-free one. So one of the biggest debates is whether injecting vitamin K into a newborn's muscle is safe. Most of the time, I actually think they do it in their foot, if it was what I understood. The drug insert itself warns that it can cause severe, sometimes fatal allergic reactions. However, studies show that these reactions are incredibly rare and occur mainly in preemies with compromised health. So there is an alternative here that you can look at, which is oral vitamin K. Some parents opt for oral vitamin K instead, which is given in multiple doses over several weeks. However, research shows that oral vitamin K doesn't reach the same blood levels as the shot, and missed doses can leave babies vulnerable to late onset VKDB. So that's kind of the background. Those are your options. This is what I did. Okay. I gave birth in a hospital. I had a C-section. It was not planned. And I will link my birth episode if you want to listen to it. I ultimately decided to do the vitamin K shot. I went back and forth on this. And when I did my own research at the time, it felt like the risks were too high in order for me to ignore. So when I started understanding vitamin K and this shot, it wasn't just this idea of like baby falls or hits his head or cuts his finger and then he bleeds out and then there's no clotting. It's the brain bleeding. It's if baby hits his head or you drop him or something happens and you can't visibly see it, and then the brain starts bleeding and you wouldn't even know until you started seeing different signs. And so for me at that time, to be totally honest, I think I had a lot of fear around that. And I had a lot of fear mongering happen when I was doing the research into this. And I decided I don't want anything happening to him. And I want him to be able to clot blood as best as he can. So I'm going to give this vitamin K shot. Now, I looked into doing the oral drops because I debated doing that as well. And the best oral drops that you can get actually come from Europe. They are not in Canada and they're not in America. You have to order them from Europe. And I will link to them, or actually send me a DM on Instagram and I'll send them to you. They're hard to find. So I will send them privately to you. And the schedule of giving these vitamin K shots is actually pretty intense. So the first few weeks, it's 3 times a day. And then it drops down to 2 times a day. And for me at the time, the idea of managing a supplement on top of a newborn as a new parent was too much for me to handle, on top of finding out my baby was breech and having my midwife piece and leave me in my last week of pregnancy and me not being supported in home birth and all of these other things that happened. It was too much for me to handle. And I did not want to add to my workload of having a new baby and then being on this very strict schedule. Even though I'm really good with my own supplements, it felt like I was adding more work to my plate for those 8 weeks. So ultimately, I decided not to do it. It was too much follow-up for my comfort, and I didn't want the risk of VKDB. And so that's kind of where I was at with that. Now, what I did do, and this is a bit beyond this episode, but I did make sure that I supported his detox pathways, my son's detox pathways naturally through my own nutrition and delayed cord clamping. So if you decide to do the vitamin K shot, there's a way that you can still support your kid and your new baby in a very holistic way. So you can do things like delayed cord clamping, which allows extra stem cells and clotting factors to reach the baby naturally. Again, what I did was I was in a hospital, unfortunately. I mean, they have their place. So I was in a hospital and we did delayed cord clamping. I think they cut it after a minute. If I did a home birth, I would have done longer than that for sure. So delayed cord clamping can really help getting those extra stem cells and clotting factors to the baby. Breastfeeding. Breastfeeding contains small amounts of natural vitamin K and immune supporting compounds. I breastfed from day one and I'm still breastfeeding. And so that was super, super important to me. And then liver supportive nutrients for me. So postpartum, I focused on methylated B vitamins, choline, and antioxidants to ensure healthy detox pathways for both of us. What that looked like was I continued to take my prenatal postpartum, and I'm actually still taking it. But it was super important, especially in the beginning, to continue to take that. Toothpaste. We all need it and use it daily. But have you ever read the ingredients of your toothpaste or noticed the FDA poison warning on there? If not, keep on listening for some surprising information that your dentist might not be sharing with you. Fluoride has long been a common ingredient in many commercial toothpastes, hailed for its ability to prevent cavities. However, recent studies have raised concerns about the potential health risks associated with fluoride exposure. These risks include thyroid dysfunction, dental fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis, and potential neurotoxicity. Given these concerns, wellness offers a safer alternative that doesn't compromise our health, yet remains effective. Why choose wellness toothpaste? It is founded by wellness mama Katie Wells, and wellness is dedicated to natural health and uses hydroxyapatite instead of fluoride, a game changer in oral care. Here's why it is a better choice. It's fluoride free, eliminating all the health risks that I just talked about. The natural hydroxyapatite formula strengthens enamel and whitens your teeth. Plus, it's crafted from natural ingredients, gentle on gums, and eco-friendly. I love it. I use it all the time. I love the taste of it, and I don't think I will switch to anything else. So make the switch for yourself today to Wellness Toothpaste. Visit wellness.com and use code BIOHACKINGBRITTANY for 12% off your order. That's wellness spelled WELLNESSE.com. Safeguard your health with wellness because your smile deserves the best. Now, if I have another kid, to be totally honest with you, I don't know if I would do the vitamin K shot again. Now that I have experience with a newborn, with raising a baby, with birth, with understanding my rights and understanding my decisions, I don't know if I would say, hey, I think this might be necessary. I would probably be a lot more skeptical, and I probably would not do it. But as a new parent, there's so much unknown, and it's so overwhelming that it just made sense for me in that time. And I don't blame myself. And also, to be totally honest with you guys, vitamin K shot was the only thing we actually did do. I didn't do any vaccines at birth. We didn't do any of the eye drops. We did delayed cord clamping. We did vaginal seeding. We did breastfeeding right away. We did skin to skin contact. I have my whole birth plan. I can send it if anyone wants it. It's actually just a single page PDF, and it's got little icons. So it's super easy for the nurses and the doctors to read. So the vitamin K shot was actually the only thing that we did that was, maybe not as clean or non-toxic as I would have liked. So for me, again, it was compromise. I didn't do any of the Hep B or Hep A vaccines. I also did not get any vaccines when I was pregnant. They tried and I said no. I also didn't do a lot. I didn't do any of the glucose testing. I didn't do, what was the other one? Oh, I'm forgetting. But yeah, a lot of things I declined. So for me, I guess this kind of balanced it out. You need to make the best decision for you, weigh the pros and cons. What does this feel like in your gut? How do you feel about this decision? This is one of many, many decisions you need to make at birth. And so, personally, I would do as much research as possible and just see what makes the most sense for you. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Obviously, send me any messages if you have any questions about any of that. Okay, next question. I posted a little story on Instagram about how I'm focusing on antioxidants and nutrient-dense food right now. I mean, I think I'm always focusing on that, but a little more because I'm like healing my skin. And so I got so many messages of like, wait, you thought it was eczema and it wasn't, and it's a staph infection. What is that? How did you know? Who did you get tested with? La, 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 la. Okay. So here is the situation. For years, I think it started in 2022, I struggled with what I thought was eczema. And this appeared as dry, irritated, inflamed skin. And it started on my calf, my left calf. And then it kind of, where did it go from there? It went to the back of my knees. And then where did it go? Maybe, I don't even remember. On my butt, maybe on my hips a little bit. And then in this past year, it started showing up in between my elbows and the back of my arms. Never on my face, thank the Lord. But yeah, that is kind of how it showed up. And so no matter what moisturizers I did, what dietary changes I did, it didn't go away. I thought back at the time when it first showed up, and I know this because I actually wrote a journal entry about it, I thought it was bacterial. I thought, I don't think this is eczema, And I suspected a gut connection, but to be honest, at the time, I didn't really do much about it because it wasn't a big enough issue for me to be super, super concerned. However, in postpartum, it has got significantly worse. And I just went through a terrible batch of it over Christmas and January. Like everywhere, dry, flaky, red, itchy, like you would scratch it and it would come off underneath your nails. And it was terrible. It was totally terrible. Like, I'm not even going to lie. And so thankfully, I got my gut microbiome tested. And I did this through a company called Tiny Health. You can use my discount code, BIOHACKINGBRITTANY. Go for it. I'll link it in the show notes and on my website. They're also coming on my podcast. We're going to do a full episode. So I get myself tested, my husband tested, my baby tested. And you test through, it is a feces test. So you just take this little swab and you actually just wipe the toilet paper after going to the bathroom. And then it takes a look at all of the different bacteria that you have in your gut. And I was like, this is going to help. This is going to help figure this out. Turns out I was right. It's bacterial. And I have a overgrowth of Staphylococcus aureus, which is just known as staph bacteria, and exfoliative toxin A, which I'm going to get to in a second. So you get your results back. It shows you your levels of bifidobacteria, lactobacillus, all of the different ones that you might know. And then it goes into the very specific ones. It looks at strep, looks at staph, looks at other things that you might have an overgrowth of. And so this staph was there. Thankfully, my husband had none of it, and my kid, Callahan, has none of it. So I'm like, okay, is this related to skin? So I take a look at it. Lo and behold, it is. Staph, this staph bacteria is a normal part of the skin microbiome, but in excess, it causes chronic skin infections, barrier dysfunction, including leading to redness, irritation, and peeling, and toxin production, which worsens your inflammation. So I'm reading this, I'm like, okay, great. But also, like, I'm low-key happy about it because now I think I actually have a root cause and I have something I can work on and heal versus the last 3 years where I haven't known and then I didn't get tested. I should have gotten tested. And so we need to think about, now I don't have a full answer for this, and I'm going to ask Tiny Health when they come on my podcast, but we need to think about this eczema and staph connection. And what I mean by that is, does eczema cause staph overgrowth? Or does staph overgrowth cause eczema? Or can you have either separately and they're not related? So it's actually a study done in 2017 by the JAMA Dermatology publisher. And it said that 70% of eczema patients have a staph overgrowth. Staph bacteria weaken the skin's defenses, making it more prone to irritation. So that's where I don't know right now. I don't know the answer to that. In my limited understanding of eczema is that it's not very common to actually have it flare up or begin at my age. It's something that usually shows up in childhood, usually shows up with kids. And so for me, it was it was surprising for it to start to develop, especially when I used to get my inflammation levels checked, my CRP, and it was very, very healthy and great. So it's not like I was dealing with this chronic inflammation that was showing up in my skin. So I was kind of confused about it for a while. So I don't know. Yeah, it's something I need to dabble on. But regardless, staph overgrowth is something that needs to be addressed and needs to be dealt with. So then I go through my report even further, and it takes a look at the different toxins that this staph bacteria can create. And one of the toxins is ETA, which is exfoliative toxin A. And I'm like, okay, tell me about this toxin. So ETA breaks down desmoglein 1, which is a protein that holds skin cells together. So now you're actually you don't actually just have this staph bacteria that's causing skin issues, but you actually have this toxin that it's producing that's breaking down the skin cells that are holding together. You're breaking that barrier. You're pulling them apart. And this leads to peeling, flaking, and extreme sensitivity, often misdiagnosed as eczema. There was a study in the Journal of Investigative Dermatology in 2019 that found that high levels of ETA in eczema patients is very common and makes their symptoms worse. So super frustrating to get these results, but at the same time, I'm so grateful because I was actually able to put together a protocol to heal my skin. And I'm thankful for my education and my experience to understand all of this and know what to do. So when we have something like this, there's a couple different ways you can go about it. And people talk about this all the time. Do you support the detox pathways first? Do you kill the bad bacteria first? What do you do? How do you go about it? For me, again, it depends on you and your lifestyle and what you do. For me personally, I already naturally live quite a detoxing lifestyle. However, I'm also cautious because I am breastfeeding and I'm not in a place where I can do significant detoxing like I've done in my past, right? So significant detoxing could be enemas, fasting, water fasts, excessive saunas, things like that. A juice cleanse, anything like that, anything that can really help flush out the body. I'm not necessarily doing that right now in my life. So I naturally and gently support my detox pathways through using my home sauna. I probably sauna 3 or 4 times a week. And I have enough water. I also take some supplements that help with detoxing as well. And I eat a nutrient-dense diet. And I'm just also not exposing myself to extra toxins in general. I'm not drinking any alcohol at all. I've been sober for over 500 days now. And I have very minimal plastic in my home. And I'm just very cautious of all of the extra things that I could potentially overload my body with, especially in this delicate postpartum phase. So for me, it actually makes sense to start with killing off the staph and clearing out those toxins. So, and in the Tiny Health portal, when you get tested, it will give you recommendations. It will tell you, add in these foods, take out these foods, add this supplement, add this thing. And so that's kind of what I followed, but then I also tweaked it for my own. So I started with oregano oil. I did 10 days of oregano oil in the morning. Now, what's interesting about oregano oil is that it kills all bacteria. It's it kills staph overgrowth, absolutely, but it also kills good bacteria. It's like an antibiotic, really. And so you actually don't want to use oregano oil very often because it's so potent in that way. It is not specific to bad bacteria. Now, something that is specific to bad bacteria is actually garlic. So if you crush garlic, you let it sit on your counter for about 10 minutes, The compound that actually is produced is called allicin, and that allicin will actually kill bad bacteria. I forget the proper term for this, but it's specific to bad bacteria and overgrowth of bad bacteria, and it will not kill good bacteria, any like bifidobacteria, lactobacillus, Akkermansia, things like that. But for me and my overgrowth, I did 10 days of oregano oil. I think I did 4 drops in the morning with a little bit of water, and that was it. I'm also taking, and I was taking during this, phase 1, which was for about 10 days, a supplement called Flora Restore. I got it on Amazon. Yeah. And this has a compound in it from geranium. And geranium, this compound is actually really great for clearing bacterial toxins. So I'm still taking that today. It's much more gentle than oregano oil, and does not kill good and bad bacteria. Lately, we've all been reminded how important it is to stay sharp no matter how old we are. We really can't let the years slow down our mental game. Whether we're 30, 40, 80, we can choose to feel our best. If you've noticed that your brain feels a bit foggy as you age, or even as you're a new mom and you're experiencing mom brain, as they call it, it is time to clear the mental cobwebs. And I can't think of a better and more delicious way to do it than by having my daily dose of Mushroom Breakthrough from BiOptimizers. Mushroom Breakthrough packs a powerful punch with 4 cognitive boosting mushrooms: lion's mane, chaga, cordyceps, and reishi, plus collagen for extra brain support. Lion's mane in particular can increase the levels of BDNF, which is a protein that helps brain cells grow. This is crucial for learning and memory, which typically decline as we age. It's kind of like fertilizer for your brain cells. On top of these incredible benefits, it's also delicious and comes in 3 different flavors that all taste amazing. Give Mushroom Breakthrough a try and feel the difference. I have a glass every single day, and you can do the same. Head to bioptimizers.com/Brittany, and you can use my discount code BIOHACKINGBRITTANY, which is in all capitals, to get your Mushroom Breakthrough for 10% off today. Your future self will thank you. Then I was also in this killing phase, we'll say, killing staph and clearing toxins phase. I also started taking a new probiotic called Flora Restore, and the strain in it is S. boulardii. And this helps to eliminate that toxin, the exfoliative toxin A. Again, I just got it on Amazon. I can link it for you. So that was kind of my killing phase that I went through, was the oregano oil, Flora Restore, and Flora Restore, on top of all of the other supplements I was taking. I just took them in the morning away from everything else. But I also treated it topically. And this is a must. You can really help to kill off the bad bacteria in your gut and, reduce these toxins that are being produced. But doing something topically is just so much better as well. You're doubling your efforts, and it just makes sense. And it also actually feels very soothing and gives a lot of comfort. So for me, the recommendation that I chose to go with was using Manuka Honey Tallow. Manuka honey is a natural antibacterial and wound healing supportive compound. If you want to get Manuka honey, this is from New Zealand, look for one that has a UMF rating of 15 plus. This basically means that it is very, very high quality. It's not cheap and there's a little bit of Manuka honey in it and it's not really going to do much. It's hard to find, but you can do it. So again, I got this on Amazon. I will link it for you. And I used tallow, and I used grass-fed, grass-to-finish tallow. I think there's some essential oils in there as well. And then it was the Manuka honey. And it was very, very difficult to find this in Canada. Very difficult. To find Manuka honey cream or lotion that had that UMF rating, I actually had to order it from the States and get it sent here. It was crazy. And so I started applying it all the time, after the shower, after the sauna, on my legs, on my arms, on my hips, everywhere that I had some sort of skin reaction. irritation, redness, I would apply it. And it helped so much. Guys, like it's basically gone. And this was how many weeks ago? I don't know, maybe a month ago, maybe even less. It was worked like a charm, like an absolute charm. If you don't want to do the Manuka honey, you can do something called hypochlorous acid spray. And this is easier to find. Natural, actually really great to keep in your medicine cabinet. And it kills staph on the skin. So it's antibacterial, gentle, and can work as well. I don't have any experience of a certain brand or product for this, so you're just going to have to take a look and just make sure you double check and read the ingredients. So you definitely want to go through some sort of like, assume you get tested and maybe you do have a staph overgrowth. You need to kill off the staph and clear out the toxins. But obviously at the same time, make sure your detox pathways are open for this and you're leading a more non-toxic, cleaner lifestyle, hopefully, so that you can support this happening. Once you've done that, you can start to add in some other supplements to kind of rebuild the gut microbiome and the skin barrier. So for me, I added in, I forgot to mention, during this time as well, when I, started doing the oregano oil and the killing off phase, I was also taking anti-inflammatory supplements. So I was taking resveratrol, quercetin, and glutathione. And that is by a brand called Partiqlar. They have this like anti-inflammatory bundle. I will link that in the show notes for you to try. And that was really wonderful. And I'm still taking that now. And this targets the overgrowth, clears toxins, and supports immune function. During this time, so I would do any compounds that were, killing in nature in the morning. And then I would take any other probiotics later in the day so that I could still get benefit from them, but they weren't going to be killed off from the oregano oil. So I continued my Akkermansia, and this is by the company called Pendulum. This is really great for metabolism. It's, known as a metabolism bacteria. And then I also started taking seed. It's so funny. Seed is like everywhere and people have recommended it, but I've never taken it until now. And so I started taking seed, 2 capsules, and this strengthens the gut barrier and the microbiome. And then I already mentioned the Flora Restore, which clears ETA toxins and prevents gut infections. And then at dinner, I am taking the Probiotic Breakthrough from BiOptimizers, which helps with digestion and gut repair. At nighttime, I was taking, during that 10 days, I was taking activated charcoal, which is obviously optional, but this helps to bind the ETA toxin and gut pathogens overnight. So that was kind of also how I was detoxing and helping my body clear properly and be able to move on to the next phase. So again, you just want to be careful with oregano oil because you want to avoid any microbiome disruption. Stay hydrated to flush out toxins during that time, and eat anti-inflammatory, gut-friendly foods like bone broth, omega-3s, and have a low histamine diet. So after that, like I said, we're going to focus on healing and maintenance. So I stopped the oregano oil, and this is where I'm still at today. So I take the Respira Rescue. I take my anti-inflammatory bundle of resveratrol, quercetin, and glutathione, 1 capsule each. And this will help to phase out the antimicrobials and also support ongoing inflammation control. With breakfast, I still have my Pendulum Akkermansia. I have my seed. Midday, I have my Flora Restore. This is kind of like my protocol schedule. And then at night, I still have the Probiotic Breakthrough from BiOptimizers. I also stopped taking the activated charcoal because my symptoms have gone away. So honestly, this protocol, I can write it out in the show notes. Maybe I'll make a freebie download of it or something, because I feel like it's a lot to hear just on a podcast and orally. But this protocol, this timeline that I did of killing it for 10 days and then doing this for about 4 weeks after, has worked very, very well. I have less skin inflammation. I have reduced gut discomfort. I think my overgrowth is completely gone. And I'm stabilizing my microbiome right now. And that is the most important thing. So, and on top of this, I'm also taking my prenatal and other supplements as well. But these are the ones that were specific for gut healing and gut health. I do want to say that I will be getting tested again. And I think that that is the key here that a lot of us often miss, even myself. If you're having persistent symptoms or signs and you don't know what's going on, get yourself tested, get more data, and get information so that you can make informed decisions that actually make you healthier and create better results. I should have been tested 3 years ago. But then, I got married, I got pregnant, I moved, and all of these life things happened. And then I just had a serious flare up, and my kid was having some sort of, skin reaction that it made me think, okay, it's time to get our gut tested. So please get tested if you take away anything from this podcast episode. And yeah, I will be testing again after I get back from a Nicaragua trip in April. So I'll probably test again in May just to make sure that my levels are healthy again. Because even though my symptoms have gone down, how do we know that there's not going to be a flare up in a month? So I'm all about creating long-term healing, and this requires a lot of effort, conscious decisions. And so I am very curious to see where my gut is going to be in a couple months from now. But I do think that my staph bacteria has significantly reduced. If you have any questions about this, I know this was very specific and there was a lot of information in this episode. Send me a message. I will help you and I can support you as much as I can. And share this with a friend who needs to hear it. The podcast is growing and I appreciate all of your love and support. If you have a question that you would like answered on the show, send me a message on Instagram at BiOHACKINGBRITTANY, and I will absolutely help you out. I will see you next week on Biohacking with Brittany. Thank you for listening. Love you guys. Okay. Thanks for tuning into Biohacking with Brittany. If you loved this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone on their own wellness journey. Stay connected with me on Instagram at BioHackingBrittany for more on high performance health, non-toxic living, and the latest in biohacking. Until next time, keep striving for your healthiest, most vibrant self.